Firstly, what are intrusive thoughts? An intrusive thought is an unwanted thought that pops into your head without any warning. Like every other human being, I have intrusive thoughts. And for a long time, I fought these the wrong way. I'd be throwing hands at my thoughts. I'd be fighting myself, saying, get rid of that thought. Why are you thinking about that? And the only reason I did this was because I knew that these thoughts, they didn't benefit me, and ultimately they ruined my mental health or my mental well-being at that current moment. But then while I was fighting these thoughts and being harsh on myself, I began a negative cycle. And this cycle began with toxic thoughts. The first point was the toxic thoughts. And then I'd try fighting them. Then I'd fail to get rid of those toxic thoughts. And I'd be angry at myself for not being able to get rid of those intrusive thoughts. And then I'd get even more intrusive thoughts from that. So I was literally just in an endless cycle of throwing hands at my brain. Just fighting. I didn't win. If you're still watching, I assume that you have a lot of intrusive thoughts and you want to get rid of them. Or at least minimize the effect of intrusive thoughts. But let me tell you something, you won't be able to get rid of them. No matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to get rid of all your intrusive thoughts. You'll only be able to minimize the effects that they have on you, because they're always going to be there. Okay, firstly, we have to realize human nature. So the only reason that we've survived for this long is because our brains are constantly working, constantly coming up with ways to keep us safe, assessing everything in front of us to try find predators or anything that could harm us. You have to understand that your brain is constantly coming up with thoughts. And if you say that you control these thoughts, no you don't. Because while you've been watching this, you've probably started daydreaming about the girl that you like, daydreaming about the test that you haven't studied for. The fact that you can daydream, or the fact that your mind gets carried to places that you didn't intend for it to get carried, shows that we aren't in control of our thoughts. And we aren't the thinker of those thoughts. The way I see it is that we are merely the observers of these thoughts. So when you look at it as if you're the observer of your thoughts, you realize that you don't have to engage with all your thoughts. You won't have to engage with all those intrusive thoughts because they will do no good for you. Okay, when you look at it like from this observer viewpoint, think about the wild and you're observing animals. And then you see, let's say you see all the types of animals. You see lions, you see crocodiles, you'll see a rabbit, you'll see a nice golden retriever. Obviously, you're not going to engage with the terrible thing or the thing that causes harm, like snakes, like crocodiles. That would be stupid because you're just walking right into death. You're not going to see a snake and decide, let me go hug this, let me go see what it is about and whatever. No, you're going to go the other way. You're going to go towards something that's better for you, something that you like more. So when you liken your thoughts to the world, like you can't control which animals you see, the same way that you can't control the thoughts that you're going to have. But what you can do is choose which thoughts you engage with. You can choose to like gently dissociate from a negative, intrusive thought, and you can choose to focus on something happy. What I want you to do is recognize that you don't have to engage with all your intrusive thoughts. You don't have to engage with every single thought. Whenever you have an intrusive thought, firstly, I want you to thank your brain. Because that intrusive thought, though it may be causing you so much harm, the point of it and the reason why our brains are coming up with those points, with those thoughts, is to keep us safe. The only reason that we've lost it for that long is because our brains are supercomputers. They're constantly coming up with ways to keep us safe. They're constantly assessing our environment to see if there's any potential danger. So those intrusive thoughts, they're not our brain trying to harm us, they're our brain trying to protect us. So when you get anxious about speaking in the crowd, or when you think that, this girl, she's probably cheating on me. No, it's your brain trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you away from harm. But what you have to realize is that not all thoughts are successful. So when you do get that intrusive thoughts, thank your brain. Say, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but this thought does more harm than good. And then gently dissociate. Gently move on. Don't be angry at yourself for having that thought, because you didn't control it. You weren't the one who decided, let me think about this negative thing. The key here is gently detaching from those intrusive thoughts. Because have you noticed the things that you don't want to think about, the things that you always fight, those thoughts that you fight, that you be throwing hands at, those are the thoughts that always come back. And when they come back stronger. So what you have to do, and what I found works for me, is I just gently dissociate. I don't judge myself for that thought. I tell myself that I know it's normal that I have these thoughts, but that thought doesn't define me. I am not my thoughts. Once you do get rid of that intrusive thought, or you detach from that intrusive thought, now you're going to have to fill your mind with something else. Because by rejecting that thought, it's like you're taking it out of your mind. and your mind's going to think something either way. So by leaving a space in your mind of like taking out the negative thoughts, you're just going to leave empty space. And if you don't do anything to improve that, those negative thoughts are going to come back. So what you have to do now is, once you have that intrusive thought and you overcome that intrusive thought, you have to fill your mind with something positive, or focus on whatever you're doing. Like, let's say it's your homework. Let's say, I don't know, whatever you're doing at the current moment, whatever you deem to be positive. Just focus on that. You have to prioritize filling your mind with good things, because your mind is always going to be full. So by removing the bad things, you're not going to fix the problem, because the bad things are just going to come back. You're going to have to fill your mind up with the positive things, so that there's less space for the bad things. Think about it this way. Let's say you were trying to eat healthy and all you ate was junk food. So you had 4 junk meals a day. So if you were just like, you know what, I'm cutting out junk food, you would be left with no food. You start starving, and then eventually you're going to go back and get the junk food that you're trying to cut out. You start off by eating 1 healthy meal a day, and you're still having 3 junk food meals with like 3 other junk food meals. And then you increase that to 2, to 3, then to 4. Over time, you're going to have no space. You're going to have no space left in your stomach to have junk food. So I think we should approach our thoughts the same way. Just focus on filling your mind with positive thoughts. And then eventually, there's going to be minimal space left for those intrusive thoughts. I'm not saying they're going to disappear, but there's going to be minimal space. You're obviously going to have days where you relapse. You're going to have days where all you can do is think negative. But those days will be the TJ! They'll be the minority. You have to be mindful about what you think about. You always have to inspect. You have to make sure that what's going on in your head is good for you, and that is propelling you in the direction that you want to go in.